Looking at the reading 26 review questions, this is the first reading from Mary Wollstonecraft's Vindication of the Rights of Woman. Number one, are men tyrants with regard to women? Obviously, I'm asking for your opinion. She thinks so. And we have an idea what it means to be a tyrant. To be a tyrant is to use power beyond your legitimate authority, to use power beyond law, and to use it to oppress somebody. I think she's indicting men as generally the oppressors of women here, at least in her society. So if we ask whether men are tyrants with regard to women, do men oppress women? Do men use their power as men beyond their rightful authority with regard to women? That's really the question. I don't know. 2, explain why Wollstonecraft is so concerned with the subject of education. Well, it is her continuing concern throughout this book is education. And if there's one thing that she wants, it's for women to have as many educational opportunities as men, because they need it to develop themselves. One of the things that she says remarkably about the relations between men and women is that women are generally inferior to men in her society. She says that. But she says that's because they haven't had the opportunity to develop themselves, because they haven't had educational opportunities. So for her, it's a great experiment. That is, if women were granted the kind of opportunities that she was granted, although she had to work very hard to get an education, then we could find out if men and women were equal. Right now, we can't find out, because it's clear that some people get the chance to get an education, to enlighten themselves, to develop their faculties and their character, and some people don't. And women generally don't. So women are this huge, have this in her mind. I think she clearly believes that women are equal to men, but this is something that will only be proven if they have equal access to education. Number 3, why does Wollstonecraft compare women of her time with military men of her time? Because neither of them had real good educations. Women and military men, soldiers, she's thinking of officers, career military people. They're very worldly, but they don't have a fundamental sound liberal education. They haven't had that sort of background where they could really expand their intellectual and moral faculties, so they're superficial. That's what she's saying, is that women are made superficial. They're victimized in her society. They're made superficial, just as military people in her society, because they're taught all the wrong values, to value the wrong things, to value appearances rather than character, to develop, to value manners and charm over intellect and good morals, she would say, things like that. So it's a pretty remarkable comparison. And, it was written in the 18th century, so I'm not saying it's still true today. Looking at reading 27, the review questions, second of the readings from Mary Wollstonecraft's A Vindication of the Rights of Woman. Number 1, according to Wollstonecraft, how are women in general like the rich? Very interesting idea. This is on, I guess, page 1 of the reading. Let me just look at this paragraph here, which she says, mankind, including every description, wish to be loved and respected for something. And the common herd will always take the nearest road to the completion of their wishes. We all want to be admired. We all want to be esteemed. And she says most people would take the easiest route to that, becoming famous for its own sake, instead of doing something really interesting and important that makes you famous. The respect paid to wealth and beauty is the most certain and unequivocal. In her society, what she's saying is that a way to become admired and esteemed is either to be rich or to be beautiful. And of course, will always attract the vulgar eye of common minds. Abilities and virtues are absolutely necessary to raise men from their middle rank of life into notice, and the natural consequence is notorious. The middle rank contains most virtue and abilities. What she's saying is, if you think of the traditional class structure, you had the aristocracy, you had a middle class, and then you had the poor, the peasants, and whatever urban poor there were. The most outstanding people come, she says, from the middle rank. Why? Well, because they're able to get an education, and because if they want to be esteemed, they have to work for it. The rich, who also get an education, they don't have to work for it. So they don't do anything important or interesting because they've already got the esteem of society because they're rich and aristocrats. So it's the people of middle rank who are the achievers. The people of the lowest rank don't even get a chance because they don't get access to education. She continues and says, men have thus, in one station at least, an opportunity of exerting themselves with dignity and of rising by the exertions which really improve a rational creature. But the whole female sex are, till their character is formed, in the same condition as the rich. For they are born, I now speak of the state of civilization, with certain sexual privileges. And whilst they are gratuitously granted them, few will ever think of works of supererogation to obtain the esteem of a small number of superior people. Women are like the rich, she says, and she's a woman speaking, right? Because they're admired for being pretty, for being beautiful. They don't have to actually do anything to be admired, just like the rich don't have to do anything to be admired. And so, she doesn't have any respect for the rich. She thinks the rich are useless because they don't have to work and improve themselves, and so they don't. And she's saying it has a bad effect on women too. If you're always admired just for your looks, you maybe don't think that you have to do anything serious or important with your life, I think is what she's saying. Pretty remarkable. So the next question, well, I'm going to skip number 2 because it's entirely a matter of opinion. But number 3, on page 3, Wollstonecraft says, quote, nature is counteracted, or she was born only to procreate and rot. What does she mean? It's not easy to say exactly what she means. She says it right here. She says, and when, to render the present state more complete, though everything proves it to be but a fraction of a mighty sum, she is incited by present gratification to forget her grand destination. Nature is counteracted, or she was born only to procreate and rot. Nature is counteracted. Women, like men, were meant to develop themselves morally and intellectually. When women are discouraged or prevented from doing that, nature is counteracted. The only other alternative would be to say that women were just made to procreate, to give birth to children, and then to die, to rot. So she's basically saying women are human beings. Women are full human beings. And to develop fully as a human being, you need to have the opportunity to be educated and to be free to develop your mind and your body too. She thinks that's important too. And that anything else is a counteraction of nature. Anything else is against nature. Or else, if you think it's natural what women are subjected to, then you think women are just exist to give birth to kids and then to rot in the grave and nothing else. And she's making a certain argument that would be, frankly, ridiculous.